The Galactic Empire patrol ship Varkos 7 drifted silently across the edge of the outer rim. Its crew expected a normal day, a quiet day, the kind of day where nothing new ever happened. But that peaceful routine ended when strange signals suddenly appeared on their long-range scanners. At first the officer on duty thought it was a glitch. Then the scans came again, stronger this time. Unidentified ships approaching, big ships, slow but confident. The officer called the captain at once. When Captain Rallick stepped onto the bridge, the room fell silent. Everyone stared at the scanner screen where huge silhouettes moved toward Imperial space. They were nothing like the Empire had ever seen. Old-looking designs, simple shapes, but carrying a strange and powerful energy signature. "Are these pirates?" the captain asked. "No, sir, too large," the officer replied. "And they look human," the officer added with hesitation. The bridge froze at that word. Humans, a name lost in old stories. A species believed to have died out or disappeared long ago. But the scanner showed the truth clearly. They were back, and they were entering Imperial territory without fear. Captain Rallick ordered a communication channel opened. His voice echoed across the bridge as the message was sent. "You are entering restricted Imperial space. Identify yourselves," he said. There was a long moment of silence. Then a reply came in, casual and calm. A human voice said, "Relax, we're just passing through." The Empire officers exchanged confused looks. Humans sounded friendly, almost playful, but no one laughed except them. Captain Rallick tried to intimidate them. "This is not a passage zone. Turn around or face consequences," he warned. For a moment, there was silence again. Then the human captain laughed, a soft but confident laugh. "Consequences? We don't want trouble. But we're not afraid of it either," the human replied. That laugh sent chills through the Imperial crew. It was not the laugh of someone who was weak or scared. It was the laugh of someone who had seen far worse threats than the Empire. Another officer whispered, "Sir, their ships look old, but they are not weak." Energy readings increased. Power levels rose slowly, calmly, like someone stretching before a walk. Not hurried, not stressed, just ready. The Empire sent 3 patrol ships forward to block the humans. The ships moved into formation, bright lights glowing, weapons fully charged. But the human ships did not change direction. They kept moving slowly, straight toward them. "Why aren't they stopping?" an Imperial soldier said, voice shaking. Captain Rallick gave the order for a warning shot. A bright beam of energy flew toward the nearest human vessel. It exploded on impact, lighting up space. When the light faded, the human ship was still there, completely unharmed. Shock spread across the Imperial bridge. "How is that possible?" the weapons officer shouted. The human captain spoke again, voice calm as ever. "If that was your warning, here is ours," he said. Suddenly the scanners picked up more signals. Dozens of signals, ships decloaking around the system. Silent and cold as shadows, the humans had surrounded the Empire patrol without firing a single shot. Captain Rallick felt his throat tighten. They had misjudged the humans. These were not lost wanderers or weak survivors. These were warriors who laughed in the face of threats. These were humans who had returned stronger than ever. As the human fleet moved in closer, one thought spread through every Imperial mind. They were in the presence of a power they did not understand. And the Empire realized too late that the first contact would change everything. The Imperial patrol fleet hung frozen in space, trapped between fear and pride. No one expected the humans to reveal more ships, especially not silent vessels that appeared like ghosts around the system. Captain Rallick stared at the scanner screen, watching the human fleet numbers grow. First 10 ships, then 20, then 30, all calm, all steady, all waiting. The first human ship drifted closer, its hull dark and cold. It did not glow like Imperial ships, nor did it display any symbols of threat, but something in its design felt ancient and dangerous, like a beast that slept for centuries but never lost its claws. The Empire's science officer, Lerone, activated a deep scan. He expected to learn about human technology. Instead, his console sparked, overloaded, and shut down. What happened?" he shouted. Captain Rallick looked sharply at him. "The scan failed, sir. It actually burned out the sensors," Lerone said in shock. The entire bridge went silent. Human ships were unreadable. Their systems were too advanced or too strange for Imperial technology. The Empire could not analyze them, could not predict them, could not understand them. Captain Rallick tried again to communicate. "This is your final warning. Humans," he said. voice shaking slightly. "You are surrounded. Turn back now," he ordered, but deep inside, he already knew it was a lie. It was the Empire that was surrounded, not the humans. The humans replied in their relaxed tone. "Captain, we don't want to harm anyone," the human voice said. "We're just moving through. No war, no drama." The voice added. Then the human captain laughed again. Every Imperial officer felt the tension rise. The Empire finally lost patience. Admiral Voskan, leading the patrol group, ordered a formal display of power. 10 Imperial cruisers moved forward, forming a wall of energy. They charged their weapons, ready to fire if the humans refused to comply. But the humans did not react. No defensive position, no change in formation, no fear. Their ships simply continued to float quietly, almost as if they were bored. Admiral Voskan gave the order. "Fire, a high-level warning blast. Show them we are serious," he said. A beam of concentrated plasma shot toward a human vessel. The blast was bright, powerful, feared across the galaxy, but when it struck the human hull, it disappeared. The ship absorbed it like dust hitting a mountain. Gasps filled the Imperial bridge. "What kind of shields do they have?" Someone whispered. Lirin shook his head slowly. "That wasn't a shield, sir," he said with dread. The energy was simply erased. Captain Rallick felt sweat form on his forehead. They had poked something far stronger than they expected. Then the human captain spoke again. "If that was your warning, here is ours," he said softly. At that moment, dozens of human ships decloaked completely. The surrounding darkness lit up with massive silhouettes and sharp lines of ancient human engineering. The Empire realized they were completely no escape path, no backup, no hope of reinforcements. Even Admiral Voskan's voice trembled. "This is impossible. How long have they been here?" he muttered. Human systems remained fully powered, silent and deadly. Their engines did not hum. Their weapons did not glow. They looked calm, peaceful even, but terrifying in their confidence. One Imperial officer whispered, "Sir, they could destroy us any time." Rallick knew the officer was right. Then the humans spoke once more. "We don't want war, but don't threaten us," the human captain said. His voice carried no anger, only a warning built from experience. A warning from a species that had survived horrors the Empire could not imagine. By the end of the communication, one thing was clear. Humans were not visitors. Humans were a force the Empire was not prepared to face. The Imperial fleet floated in total silence as the human ships tightened their formation around them, like a slow-moving storm. For the first time in years, the Galactic Empire felt something it had nearly forgotten. Fear. On the bridge of the command vessel, Varkos, Admiral Voskan stood frozen, staring at the images on the holoscreen. Human ships surrounded them in perfect symmetry. Every vessel looked old on the outside but radiated a power the Empire could not measure. It felt like staring at the ruins of an ancient fortress, only to realize those ruins were still alive. Captain Rallick approached the Admiral carefully. "Sir, we cannot scan them, we cannot damage them, and we cannot break their formation," he said quietly. Admiral Voskan clenched his fists. "This should not be possible," he muttered. "We are the Empire. We controlled this entire quadrant," he added, but his voice lacked confidence. In the corner of the bridge, officers whispered among themselves. Old stories from forgotten archives echoed through their minds. Legends of humanity told by older generations. Stories about the lost species, humans who vanished into deep space centuries ago. Stories of warriors who survived extinction-level wars and still came back laughing. No one ever believed those tales, until now. The human ships made no threatening moves. They simply hovered there, watching, waiting, calm as ever. That calmness frightened the Empire more than any weapon could. Lirin, the science officer, ran a frightened analysis. "Sir, our AI has calculated a scenario," he said, swallowing hard. Admiral Voskan nodded. "Show it." The holoscreen displayed a simple message from the ship's strategic AI. Probability of Imperial victory, 2%. Probability of Imperial survival if conflict begins, 0%. Gasps and whispers broke out across the bridge. The AI never gave such numbers unless the threat was beyond comprehension. Then something even worse happened. An Imperial destroyer, stationed at the flank, panicked. Its captain shouted through the comms, "I will not die here. I refuse." The destroyer powered its weapons and fired a full plasma barrage at the nearest human battleship. It was a desperate move, born from terror, but it changed everything. The plasma shots raced through space, burning bright. Before they even reached the human ship, a burst of brilliant light exploded. Human point defense systems activated. The Imperial officers watched in shock as every plasma shot was erased mid-space. Not deflected, not absorbed, simply destroyed. The human captain's voice came through the comms. Still calm. "Please control your people. We don't want this to end badly," he said. But there was a sharp edge beneath his voice now. A warning the Empire could not afford to ignore. Admiral Voskin slammed his fists on the console. "That destroyer has doomed us," he shouted. But the human ships did not fire back. They did not seek revenge. They only tightened their formation slightly, as if they were gently reminding the Empire who held the real power. Captain Rallick took a deep breath. "Sir, maybe they truly do not want war," he said carefully. The Admiral turned toward him with tired eyes. "And if they do?" he asked. Rallick had no answer. Then the human captain spoke once more. "We didn't come for a fight. We came because a threat is approaching your galaxy," he said. The Empire's bridge froze at those words. "What threat?" Admiral Voskin asked, voice shaking. The human captain replied, "A swarm, a force you cannot defeat alone. We have faced it before, and we survived," he added. With that same unsettling confidence, every Imperial officer felt a cold shiver. The humans were not only powerful, they were experienced. They fought horrors even the Empire had never seen. At that moment, the Empire understood something important. Humans did not laugh because they were cruel. They laughed because they were not afraid. And that made them more dangerous than any enemy the Empire had ever encountered. The bridge of the Imperial command ship remained silent as the human captain's final words echoed through the speakers. A threat was coming. A threat powerful enough to frighten even the humans. Admiral Voskin felt a deep weight settle in his chest. If humans were warning them, then something truly terrible was on its way. Captain Rallick stepped closer to the main screen. "Humans survived this threat before," he whispered. That single detail changed everything. It meant the Empire was not facing simple wanderers. They were facing survivors of a war beyond imagination. The human ships slowly repositioned themselves, creating a protective arc rather than a trap. It was the first clear sign that they were not here to destroy the Empire. They were preparing for something else, something dangerous, something big. The human captain opened communication again. "You think we came here to invade you," he said calmly. "But we came to warn you," he added. A holographic display flickered to life, showing the image of a vast, black swarm. It moved like smoke across stars, consuming everything in its path. "This is the Zoltrax swarm," the human captain explained. "They feed on energy, metal, and life," he continued. "They don't negotiate. They don't fear. They don't stop." The Empire officers stared at the screen in horror. Admiral Voskin struggled to breathe as he watched entire planets vanish under the swarm's shadows. "How far away are they?" he asked. The human captain paused. "They were weeks away," he said. "Now they are days away," he corrected, for the first time. Captain Rallick saw fear in the Admiral's eyes. Fear not of the humans, but of the thing coming behind them. "What do you want from us?" Voskin asked quietly. The human captain answered, "We want an alliance. We want your fleets to survive." The Empire officers murmured in disbelief. An alliance between humans and the Galactic Empire sounded impossible, but the evidence was in front of them, and there was no time for politics. Before Voskin could respond, alarms suddenly screamed across the Imperial ship. Unknown contacts approaching fast. Lyron shouted, "Not human, not Imperial, something else." Every officer turned toward the starboard view window. Dark shapes emerged from hyperspace, sharp and insect. Their bodies glowed with a hungry, shifting energy. Captain Rallick felt his stomach drop. "The swarm, it's early," he said, voice trembling. The first swarm ship fired a blast of corrosive energy. An Imperial cruiser was hit, and within seconds its hull melted like wax under fire. The Empire watched in shock as one of their largest ships dissolved into glowing pieces. One attack, one loss. The swarm showed no hesitation, but the humans acted instantly. Their ships moved with perfect coordination. No panic, no confusion. Weapons activated with a cold precision that came only from fighting the swarm before. A massive human dreadnought charged forward. Its front cannons lit up with a bright white glow. A single blast fired into the swarm formation. The entire enemy wing exploded. Wiped out in seconds, the Empire watched in awe. They had never seen such power. They had never seen such speed. They had never seen such control. Admiral Voskan finally understood. The humans were not their enemy. They were the only chance the Empire had. When the last swarm scout ship was destroyed, silence filled space again. The human captain spoke softly. "Now you see why we laugh at your threats," he said. "We have fought worse, much worse." Admiral Voskan bowed his head. "For the survival of the Empire, we accept the alliance," he said. The human captain replied with a calm, confident tone. "Good, because the real war begins soon." And with those words, the galaxy reached a turning point. Humans and the Empire stood together for the first time, not as enemies, but as allies facing a storm that could end them all. The alliance between the humans and the Galactic Empire formed in minutes, not through treaties, not through trust, but because survival left no other choice. The Zoltrak swarm had arrived sooner than anyone predicted, and now the galaxy stood at the edge of a war no one wanted, but everyone feared. Human and Imperial fleets aligned beside each other for the first time. Great Imperial warships glowed with golden armor and bright engines. Human vessels drifted quietly next to them, dark and silent, old designs from the outside, but terrifyingly advanced on the inside. Admiral Voskan stood on the bridge of Varkos Prime. Watching the two fleets merge, he felt a strange mix of fear and hope. Humans were unpredictable, dangerous, and unbelievably powerful, but they were also experienced, and the galaxy needed that experience now. Captain Rallick approached the Admiral with urgency. "Sir, the humans are sharing targeting data," he reported. Rows of new information appeared on the Imperial screens, precise, detailed, and fast. It was like receiving the sight of an ancient battle god. The human captain opened a channel. "We're starting phase 1, he said calmly. "Hold position and follow our lead," he added. There was no arrogance in his voice, only the confidence of someone who had fought this enemy before. Moments later, the swarm arrived in full force. Not scouts, not small groups, but thousands of dark, twisted vessels. They moved like living shadows, flowing through space like liquid hunger. Captain Rallick felt cold sweat running down his neck. The swarm looked endless, a crawling nightmare against the stars. The first wave struck without mercy. Swarm ships fired corrosive beams that melted metal in seconds. The Empire's forward line faltered as one ship after another was hit. Explosions lit up the darkness, but the humans did not flinch. They moved with steady, disciplined precision. Human dreadnoughts fired their main cannons. Each blast erased entire clusters of swarm ships. The Empire watched in awe. It was as if humans were fighting a familiar enemy, a memory of a war they had survived before. Admiral Voskan shouted, "All ships, follow human firing patterns." Imperial warships reformed their lines. They began firing in coordinated waves. For the first time in the battle, the swarm slowed, not defeated, but pushed back. Even a little resistance was victory. Suddenly, alarms blared across the Imperial fleet. Swarm breaches detected. Laren shouted. Small, fast creatures detached from the main swarm and sped toward the Imperial command ship. These were the swarm's deadliest weapons, creatures that tore ships apart from the inside. Before the breaches could reach them, a wall of blue light erupted. Human shield ships formed a barrier around the Imperial command vessel. Their shields absorbed the impact and vaporized the creatures instantly. Admiral Voskan stared in shock. "They protected us, even without asking," he said quietly. The human captain spoke again. "Empire, fall back 5 clicks. We'll handle the center assault," he ordered. Voskan did not argue. The Empire had finally accepted the truth. Humans were the commanders of this battlefield. For hours, the battle raged. Space shook with energy blasts, fire, and smoke. Stars flickered under the pressure of weapons older than the Empire itself. But slowly, steadily, the swarm retreated, not defeated, but forced back. At last, the final swarm vessel disengaged. The enemy withdrew into the dark of hyperspace, leaving behind destroyed ships, burning debris, and a shaken galaxy. The human captain gave a final message. "This was only the first wave," he said calmly, "but you fought well, better than most we've seen." Admiral Voskan lowered his head with respect. For the first time, "The Empire is grateful," he said. The human captain chuckled softly. "Good, because we'll need each other for what comes next." And as the damaged fleets drifted among the stars, a new chapter of galactic history began. A chapter where humans returned not as myths, not as wanderers, but as warriors who Lao.